Alright guys, I'm Captain Lou. We're on private property. It's been in my family for more than 9 generations. And you know, going back into the day when I heard stories, especially on some of the bigger waterways we're seeing today throughout our community, where families used to be able to have conversations in small waterways like this one. Across. They had one house on one side, the other house on the other side. They could invite each other over for dinner. Up to the date, the biggest change I've seen was coastal erosion. Now you got to yell or use one of these phones here to get the message across the bayous. And some of these waterways have done eroded several acres of land away from shorelines, and houses, cemeteries, and things of such had to been pushed back away from the water levels or the water edges because of the coastal erosion. As bad as coffins poking out of the ground. So some of the biggest differences, more or less, is coastal erosion.
How has that affected the wildlife population in this
Wildlife
area?
population if you're a hunter, it's good because it focuses most of the animals to one location. Higher grounds, which is very few high grounds left. And the way of life, it created more water for shrimping and more shrimping estuaries and hatcheries and things like that. But it took away a lot of, say, bird nesting. The Louisiana state bird, the brown pelican, will survive off of barrier islands and beaches along the Gulf of Mexico, so they have to travel far for food. There's no more barrier islands out there, so now they're more inland.
Mm-hmm. Now, what would you consider the main reason for all the coastal erosion?
Coastal erosion persists during the first time the oil companies came through here and created manually created waterways to have faster and safer access to the Gulf of Mexico, which then opened up channels and inlets that allowed salt water to come into freshwater environments. And since then, salt water has been the biggest issue. And second would be hurricanes, because that pushes more salt water in here.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're in freshwater now, but that's only because of man-made projects called freshwater diversion, and that all comes from the snowmelt from the northern United States and Canada, which traditionally comes down every year down the Mississippi River. But now we have piping systems that allows us to get our fresh water we need. 15 years ago, this was not green. Of course, today doesn't do it justice because we're in the first stages of winter, and the leaves have already started falling. But our springs, we're getting all of our native flowers back because of the fresh water.
And you talked about the tourism in this area and the impact of some of the boats that come through here.
Yes. On top of shrimping vessels, which have been here since the beginning of the time, you have a newer style boat called airboats that travel in the swamps. They get you in much deeper, but the only way they can get you there is in shallow water, which means coastlines. These guys are traveling several inches off the coastlines, and that makes a powerful wave. And that's been a good bit of the wetlands that we've seen lost locally here in our private swamps.
I'm interested in hearing more about what's changed in terms of your lifestyle out here, and in terms of whether or not people live here, continue to live here, and what's changed in the last 30 years.
Oh, in a sense of the more of the local thing, the stuff you see on the movies where people are waking up in the swamps and their houses that were built and it's been passed on for generations. You don't have that anymore. Part of that reason is because of coastal erosion, but the biggest reason, I say coastal erosion will wash away the houses now. But the biggest reason is the competing with foreign companies and the raising issue of our #1 industry, which is shrimping. And you also have, other than shrimp farming from Taiwan, that these shrimps are brought in vessels, 1,000-foot vessels with billions of pounds of shrimp on them for less than $1 a pound. We're also competing with catfish farming, gator farming, so it just doesn't pay to live in a swamp anymore. And literally, it doesn't pay.
So the people that still live out here and still do that are mainly just
People
subsisting on their own?
People that have no other option either. No education. It's all they know how to do.
Just to end, you're Captain Lou, and we're on a swamp tour. And you call it, what's the name of your swamp tour?
Bayou Self Swamp Adventures, because I do all private tours, so I use the word Bayou Self.
And we've been out here and we've been seeing great blue herons and brown pelicans. And if you take a look over here, you may be able to see one of the alligators that we've witnessed. And around in this area, this is all part of Captain Lou's family property that's been passed down over, you said, 10 generations?
More than 9 generations, because it was claimed hundreds of years before the Battle of New Orleans. It was only since the Battle of New Orleans that this area has been claimed personal property.
Great. Thank you very much. Do you want to share anything else? Very good. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.